Marc Ryan on the show. Marc, what's up, man? Good to see you.
What is up, Cocky? Man, it is amazing to be joining the Big Cock Club today. Can I get an amen, everybody? How is everybody doing?
Dude, I'm doing well, man. There's some
Dude,
people
how's the Upstate treating you, man?
It's very well. I love it. I'm really enjoying it. Love my new spot. It's an immense upgrade, and been downtown a couple of times, and I mean, love downtown Greenville. So it's been a blast.
Yo, man.
I'm about 4 or 5 miles.
You've been here a couple months. I haven't gotten one call yet. Hey, Mark, I'm going to be at this place. Come out and hang with me, man. Is that how it goes? I am persona non grata when it comes to the Gamecock fan base. Is that what's going on here?
I've been spending as much time
at Carolina he's been cleaning out his sock drawer, ladies and gentlemen. You hear this? He's been cleaning out his sock drawer.
I've been spending as much time on the road and at Carolina Ale House locations and just all over the place as I have at my own spot. So, to be fair, but yes, we definitely need to link up. Again, I'm really close to downtown, and I've been loving it. Greenville's incredible, man. Greenville's incredible. What's so funny, by the way, Mark, before we get going, is I had people, and you saw them on social media, said, oh, this will be the part of the show where I tune out when Marc Ryan comes on. And sure enough, the attendees, I can see, on my end, the attendees jumped up by about 20. So that how does that work out, Mark? How do those numbers work, my guy? I don't get it.
I may not be the medicine you want, but I am the medicine you need, Chris Phillips. I am the medicine you need.
Well, man, how have you been? How's everything in the radio world? It's funny. I've got a lot of love and respect for those radio guys. And obviously, I say this, I appreciate you bringing me on your airwaves, talking Gamecocks, and it really, truly is an honor to have that platform, that opportunity. But, how's everything with you guys? The national side, national perspective. I know you got NFL going on, preseason, college football around the corner. How's everything going with the Fan Upstate? How's the rebrand been, by the way? I feel like we haven't talked about that a lot.
Man, the rebrand has been great, if I'm honest with you, man. In my opinion, CBS Sports Radio is the #1 national radio network in the country. I think Chris, they've asked me to do some things with them. So that's been awesome. It's always like that little kick in the side. I think the right pun here is the spur, right? It's that spur in your side that gets you going. And just before this call, the boss in Manhattan asked me to do Saturday on the network, September 3rd from 6 to 10 p.m. So, man, can you believe it? First college football Saturday of the year. I'll be national, 358 stations nationwide from 6 to 10 p.m. We'll be on in Columbia as well. So I appreciate it, man. It's going really, really well. Our audience is incredibly excited for this coming season, man. Is it just me, Chris? This feels like the first normal season that we've had in a minute. And I realize NIL has changed things a bit. Transfer portal has changed things a bit. But in terms of everything we've been through the last few years with COVID and everything, it feels like this is the first normal feeling season that we have had since 2019.
Yeah, no, I agree with you 110%. I was sitting there with my buddy a couple weekends ago, and preseason NFL was on, and I was like, I've never felt like I was so interested. I mean, I'm not a huge NFL guy to begin with, but I was like, I've never been so interested in watching like a preseason game. And I just told him the same thing you're saying. I was like, it really feels like, we had football in 2020. Obviously, it was a shell of itself. We had it last year, but it still felt like we were kind of, I don't know if walking on eggshells is the right way to phrase it, but it just felt weird. This year, I agree with you, really feels like, okay, like we are back. Like we're really back. Like football as we know it, right? And I think it's because all of the storylines, thank goodness, are on the field and not everything else swirling around, which is a great thing. Mark, how long have you been in the Greenville market? How long have you been with
3.5 years.
Okay.
I've been here 3.5 years now, man. And right. I at last check, let me see, carried the 2, dropped the 1. I've annoyed people on every single one of those days, So it is wonderful to be here. Hey, man, now I got the Clemson fans after me too,
And that's how
yesterday on the show, man.
Yes.
What's up?
I was going to say, that's how you know you're doing something right when both sides hate you. That's how you know.
Well, I actually think, man, as long as a team, as long as somebody is, quote unquote, kept in their proper place, nobody has a problem with them, right? And South Carolina, honestly, when they've been good, right, a lot of people have viewed them as like a cute little story, right? It's kind of like the little engine that could. And I know, Chris, you're not a cute little story kind of guy. You don't like cute little stories. You don't make a quiet entrance, Chris. I've seen some of your merch, right? You want everybody to know that you're there, and you're tired of being the cute little story. And I'm here to tell you, what Beamer is doing on the recruiting trail right now is making Clemson fans uncomfortable. It's making them uncomfortable. You're number 16, they're number 8 in the recruiting rankings. They prefer it a lot more when they're number 3 and you're number 29. You know what I'm saying? Right. 16 and 8 is really something. And at this point, and this is what I've said to Clemson fans and South Carolina fans. I said, man, if South Carolina had been doing what Clemson was, Clemson fans would hate me. They'd think I'm a Gamecock homer, right? And I just preach the truth, man. And it is impossible not to be so impressed with what Shane Beamer is doing right now. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. Whether it's climate or culture, who the hell cares? It's success, man. Drink it in. Doesn't it taste delicious? You gotta be blown away by what he's doing, Chris. And I couldn't be more impressed with the climate change, the culture change, the buy-in. You're listening to J.C. Horn's comments the other day. Look, I'm not there anymore, but the guys. Little dig at Muschamp, by the way. Did you hear it? He's like, I'm not there anymore.
I thought that
but
was
the guys
really
who
surprising.
Are there are like, it's totally different, right?
Yeah. I thought that was really surprising and spoke volumes because I think JC, he, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, but it felt like he and Israel McQuamu were like, they were not happy with the way things went down, the fact South Carolina made a change. So to hear him say that, you got to think J.C. Horn is very impressed as well. And I would make this point, by the way, Mark, you doing what you do. And I tell people all the time, like, Mark is a Gators guy. He's not a Clemson guy. He's a Florida fan, Florida alum. But for you and for your market and everything you do, like, you want both Carolina and Clemson to be good and the rivalry to be healthy because that's going to get both sides tuning into your show, not just one side where it's like South Carolina, the rivalry's been so uncompetitive. It's just like, well, I don't even want to hear anything. Don't want to listen. It's great when both sides are good. They're going to head, one, winning back and forth. Like that's what you would prefer.
Well, Chris, I want to put something to bed for once and for all here. Okay. I'm going to turn the camera around. I'm in my place. Here's what's hanging up in my place. Okay. You ready? Here we go. You see that?
Oh yeah. The swamp. The swamp.
Is that Death Valley? No, it isn't, right? That's not Death Valley, is it not, right? It's not Death Valley. So, no, that's my alma mater, man. And you were on my show, Chris, and I know you took heat for this. A team, there are prerequisites for something being a rivalry. You got to win once every 10 years right. for a rivalry to be a rivalry. Otherwise, it's just an ass whooping. It's a beatdown, right? You're not a rival of Clemson. You're getting bullied by Clemson. And Clemson fans got mad at me for saying that. They're like, have you seen the hate? There's no doubt the hate is there. I hate somebody who bullied me when I was a kid growing up, right? But you got to meet certain standards for something to be a rivalry. And there's pressure on South Carolina now because according to my standard, they have lost 7 in a row. They've got to win one time in 10 years. So they've got 3 chances before this ceases being a rivalry. Don't worry if the winning streak were to get to 12, 13 games. All you got to do is win one, and then you got a rivalry for the next 9 or 10 years. But, Chris, you came on my show, and you agreed with me on that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, from the fan side, fans will always take it personally. But, when you look at games and you look I don't look at, and I guess it would count as a rivalry, like Georgia Tech feels like a domination, although Tech has won a game within the last decade. But there's some others out. Yeah, if you don't win in 10 years, like when you're talking the greatest rivalries in college football, you just can't label it there. Like amongst fans maybe, but just as a whole, it's got to go back and forth. That's what makes South Carolina Vanderbilt's not a rivalry, right? Because Carolina beats them every single year. It's not, you know what I mean? You don't hate somebody that you beat every year, right? That Spurrier used to say that. He's like, oh, we love those guys. We don't hate them a lot at all because we beat them every year, or they don't hate us because they beat us every year. Because I think they asked him, do you feel like Georgia's a rival or this team's a rival? He's like, well, we haven't beat them enough. We haven't beat them a lot to really call ourselves their rival. You know what I mean? So I get the point where you're coming from. And I do agree with you. Yeah, I think if you don't win within the course of a decade, I don't think you can flaunt the thing around as Carolina Clemson's the best rivalry. It's like they've dominated you, man. You got to beat them at some point. I'm curious, Mark. Let's move to on-field for South Carolina. Spencer Rattler, been the talking point of the preseason. Got a lot of love and hype and praise at SEC Media Days, I thought. But you don't see him on any all-conference teams. And it's a mixed bag of reviews with him, right? It's some people think Spencer Rattler's prime for this breakout season. Some people think he's a bum. He's overrated. Again, you're not a Clemson guy. You're not a South Carolina guy. You are a neutral national type party, which I appreciate and like. Your overall thoughts on Spencer Rattler going into this season? What do you think about him? Do you think he's that Heisman favorite, first-round NFL draft pick guy? Do you think he's overrated, prime for disappointment, somewhere in the middle? How do you sit? Where do you fall on Spencer Rattler for South Carolina?
Isn't it interesting? Both South Carolina and Clemson have 5-star quarterbacks that many people don't think much of. Isn't that something? I happen to believe, Chris, that South Carolina's quarterback room is a lot better than Clemson's quarterback room at this particular juncture, And my belief is that coming to Columbia is the best move possible for Spencer Rattler. You think about the pressure that was under him in Oklahoma. You think about, how the perception of him was when he was pulled as the starter. That wasn't supposed to be the case with him. A year ago, Chris, 1 year ago, ESPN.com ranked him as the number 1 player in college football a year ago. So, think about that for a moment, right? There were a number of years where South Carolina was left taking people's scraps, right? There was South Carolina message board posters saying, "I'm tired of being a fan of 3-star U," right? So think about that for a minute, right? Think about that. Those were Gamecock fans saying, I'm tired of being 3-star U. You got the most talented quarterback on campus that you've ever had. That's not to say he's going to be the best quarterback, but I think this is the best situation for him. He is getting a lot of love in Columbia. He is getting a lot of support in Columbia. And I don't think Spencer Rattler could have made a better decision for himself than going to Columbia and playing for his former coach, Shane Beamer, for the South Carolina Gamecocks.
And you look at the way that Shane Beamer, you mentioned the recruiting side of things, right? I think what's so interesting, the way he's attacked things, especially going into this year in the transfer portal, right? You look at the amount of guys they added out of the portal. It's not just Rattler, Stogner, obviously his buddy from Oklahoma, Antoine Wells at receiver, Corey Rucker at receiver. On the defensive side, Terrell Dawkins, Devontae Reed. Your thoughts on the way Beamer has attacked the transfer portal in a way that, I'm not sure that the coach in the Upstate has really embraced, at least early on didn't, and it feels like Shane Beamer was able to take advantage and what normally would be, hey, let's wait till year 3, 4, 5. This is not your typical year 2 when you go into the portal and pulling the type of guys they pulled in.
Well, and you know what? Like we have evidence, Chris, dating back to last year. Mel Tucker, Michigan State, his roster had more holes than Swiss cheese. They began the year outside the top 25. They finished in the top 10. How? He added 20 guys via the transfer portal. I agree with Dabo in terms of how I feel about how the transfer portal is being instituted. I hate it. But if you don't do that deal with the devil, you're not going to have the depth and you're not going to win at the highest level, right? And Shane Beamer, I think, is using the transfer portal admirably. I think the transfer portal should be used to fill roster gaps, right? To fill roster holes. And recruiting should be, your regular class should be your lifeblood. And I think he's doing that. And I want to share this with you, Chris. Shane Beamer, all right? We've all talked about the blue chip ratio and what that means. And to bring your audience into it, in the modern era, any team that has won a national championship over a 4-year period, at least 50% of their recruits were 4- and 5-star players. Well, South Carolina hasn't been close to that number. But I went back and I did a study and I looked at Spurrier's heyday, 2010 to 2014, Chris, right? That was his heyday. South Carolina was 9-5, 11-2, 11-2, 11-2, and 7-6, 2010 to 2014. Spurrier's average class during that stretch was ranked number 21. His blue chip ratio was 29%. Okay? You throw out the first year a new coach is brought on. Muschamp's years were 2017 to 2020. His blue chip ratio was 31%. So Spurrier 29%, Muschamp 31%. You throw out 2021 for Beamer. As you know and I know, what he took over was a dumpster fire of biblical proportion. His blue chip ratio right now, brother, is 39%. Okay? His blue chip ratio this year is 48%. The highest class since Spurrier's heyday. Spurrier's class was ranked 15th in 2012. Beamer's class is ranked 16th in August. Greatest number of blue chip players. Will Muschamp had 9 twice. Spurrier had 10 twice. Beamer's got 9 in August. Folks, look, If you don't know, you better ask somebody because there's a ton of momentum. You like that? You like that, don't you,
I
Chris?
do.
You like
I
that?
do.
There's a ton of momentum in Columbia right now, man, and you got to be excited about this if you're a Gamecock fan. It's tremendously exciting when you consider blue chip ratio wise. He is getting into homes now that both Spurrier and Muschamp couldn't get into. The magnitude of them, the volume of them, it's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Again, I am a believer in blue chip ratio. I feel like a lot of folks they shy away from it because it is a very it makes you look at your program honestly. Because if you're not hitting that number, Mark, like you're saying, and you can say stars don't matter, but they do. Like the stats say they do. Bottom line, they're not everything, but they do matter over the long haul, over the course of 3, 4, 5, 6 recruiting classes. The way your program's stacked up, they do matter. And I've told people before on this show that people ask, what does Shane Beamer have to do, this, that, whatever, to win an SEC championship? And I've just said simply, if 4 or 5 years from now, 3, 4 years, whatever, however many years from now, South Carolina is hoisting the trophy in Atlanta, it will be a direct correlation of we will look back and say recruiting changed. That's it. Recruiting changed. It just flat out it did. So the blue chip ratio, like you're mentioning, if South Carolina can get that 50% or greater mark, I mean, I agree with you, man. It's unbelievable, really, when you think about it. It's crazy to think what Spurrier did with 29% blue chip ratio. And they still won 11 games. So imagine if you do get to that 50% mark, the sky's the limit, obviously, and the stats prove that and show that as well. Mark, you've gone on record. I know you guys ran a poll on your site. You've gone on record. You've said that, and I know we talked about this a lot, 8-4, that's the standard, that's the expectation for this season for a successful year, correct?
We posted a poll, and there was a tremendous response to the poll. And the Gamecock fans in our area, by a wide margin, said that 8-4 is the mark of success. And you can understand why. Without Spencer Rattler, you want to get better every year, right? You went 6-6 a year ago in the regular season. 7-5 would be an improvement. Oh, now you're telling me I got the most talented quarterback who's ever stepped on campus, right? I got a manageable non-conference schedule. So naturally, people would say 8-4. And you know what, Chris? The beauty of college football is that you get to call out guys like me when you beat the Florida Gators. The beauty of college football is, it's a good thing to have high expectations, man.
Yeah,
I think it is so lame and so sad when people say, no, we're only the Gamecocks. We should only expect to have, man, screw that. Embrace the expectations, brother. Embrace them. That's how your program is going to grow. So 8-4 is the expectation for success. I wouldn't say 7-5 is a failure, but I would say 7-5 is not a success. I would say 6-6 would be a disappointment, and I would say 5-7 would be a failure. But I believe, Chris, your worst case scenario this year is 5-7. I believe your best case scenario is 9-3. And waiter, I'll have one of what he's having for thinking that the Gamecocks have a better chance to beat Clemson than they do A&M.
Oh, yeah. I know I've caught flag for that all over social media. We'll get in that in just a second. But I will say this, though, Mark, and I don't totally disagree with you. The worst case, best case, I've got best case, realistic best case, 8-4. I could maybe see 9-3. Hey, if you want to go 9-3, you got to beat Arkansas. I'll give you that.
Well, 9-3, Chris, 9-3 would mean that you've won every winnable game on your schedule.
And that's why for me, you've won every swing game. And it's just I don't know that that's really realistic. I mean, we've all watched South Carolina football long enough. But again, that's that attitude coming out. And that's what Shane Beamer is trying to eliminate. It's funny, man, because again, I interact with our fan base every single day. And it's like Gamecock fans, they expect bad things to happen after good things. We'll win a big game. They will expect the letdown. It's coming. When's the letdown coming? But it's coming. Last year, after beating Florida and then going to Missouri, you lose to Mizzou in just baffling fashion. It was like, that's it. That's South Carolina football to a T right there. And so that's what Beamer's trying to get rid of, is that thought process.
Do you believe Gamecock fans are now entering that zone, Chris, where they're daring to believe just a little bit? The embarrassment of the former president and what he said at commencement, all the losing under Muschamp, how Clemson fans have delighted on just crapping on you every chance they get. Do you think Gamecock fans are at the point now where is it safe to believe? Is it safe to come out of our shell just a wee bit? dare we believe right now? Because you know what, brother, when you step out of that shell, when you come out of your grizzly bear hibernation bunker, you're going to realize the future's so bright. You need the damn cool shades that Mark Stoops is making fun of. Okay? You do. You need those bad boys, man. The future's so bright for you guys, man. Just believe for a minute. Have the expectations, man. Right?
Yeah, I
If
do
you've
believe.
always do, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always gotten.
Yep.
And Beamer is doing something that no one else has done before.
Yep.
Okay, not Spurrier, and that was the height of the program. 29% blue chip ratio. Not Muschamp. What's the one thing he could do? Couldn't coach out of a paper bag. Could recruit, right? Beamer is rallying the troops, is having the sum be greater than the individual parts, right? Is putting the entire thing together and having the one for all team mentality, and he's succeeding at that. And now he's hitting the 39% blue chip ratio. Dude, he beat North Carolina in a bowl game with the island of misfit toys at quarterback last year. Okay? Think about that for a minute.
Yeah. And I will say this to your point, Mark, because I've talked to J.C. Sherbert of the Big Spur about this in regards to this. This is a scarred fan base. Like you mentioned, I mean, we've talked about it before in your airwaves. It is like wild when you think about it. South Carolina fans have already endured over 100 years of practically mediocrity. Just call it for what it is when it comes to the history of South Carolina football. They've sat through 1-10. They've sat through 0-11, 1-21, a 21-game losing streak. They've sat through the up and downs. They've sat through losing to Clemson. Then recently you pile on, like you mentioned, things that are just completely out of your control. The president debacle, Muschamp debacle. And so now you get to a point, and again, J.C. Sherbert made this point, he said, are we not giving enough hype to this team because we're so scarred? You know, it's like that person that's been in so many toxic relationships and they finally find a good person, a good, healthy relationship, and they don't know how to act. They're like, they don't know, you know what I mean? You're scared to dive in. But to your point, because if this was any other football team, like you mentioned, offense, I mean, I tell people this, Mark, there are chicken curse pessimistic views on this season. There's a way to look at it that way. There's the garnet glasses optimistic view, and then there's the realistic view, which is where I try to fall. But looking at it from the garnet glasses side, Spencer Rattler, an O-line with 129 career starts. Josh Vann is back. Antoine Wells, FCS record-setting receiver. You added Corey Rucker, who's on the Biletnikoff Award watch list. Austin Stogner, who's an all-conference player. Jaheim Bell, who could be an all-conference player. You know, you've got Marshawn Lloyd, 5-star running back. Christian Bill Smith, who led Wake Forest in rushing. Defensively, all Clayton White did was overachieve with, again, the land of misfit toys. You're more talented and better this year. So there are reasons, I agree with you. There are many, many reasons to be excited. And I tell people this, I'm excited coming into every year. But what's so fun about this year, Mark, is last year at this time, we were excited for off-field reasons, right? Hey, thank God Will Muschamp's not the head coach anymore, right? There's a change. It's just something different. I'm excited for game day again. But this year, what's exciting, there are real on-field reasons to be hyped. Like there really are. And I'm not saying South Carolina's going to win 10, 11, 12 games, anything crazy like that, but this should be a fun season. It should. And 8-4 would be a fun year for South Carolina. For a fan base that for so long, you know, after enduring the Muschamp era, is looking just for a fun football season. You know what I mean? Just a fun year, winning some fun games, upset a couple people here and there, maybe beat the rival even. You know what I mean? So I do agree with you. It's funny, though. There are people, I feel like we're kind of all collectively trying to let ourselves, like you mentioned, believe that we're on the cusp of that. And I will say, though, on that note, and I love it. I agree with you, man. I love the hype. I love the expectations. I loved SEC Media Days. Like, bring it on. We want the hype. Pressure makes diamonds. Pressure's a privilege. There is pressure on South Carolina, though, I think, Mark, because when are you going to have a Spencer Rattler again? I mean, I love all the guys they're recruiting, but it's like if you go 6-6, I've said this, you know, early in the Beamer era, it's year 2, man. I think you have to keep in mind it's year 2. So as long as early on in his tenure, you're making bowl games, you're going to postseasons, you know, you can attract the recruits you need. It's not going to destroy your program if you happen to fall to a 6-6 record. But I just think there's pressure to get the most out of the talent you brought on campus. You know, it's like you brought Spencer Rattler. You worked so hard to get him. It's just going to be, in my opinion, a damn shame if you can't win more than 6 games with a guy like that. After, like you mentioned, the transitive property doesn't work in college football, but it's like You won 7 games with that mess under center last year, and now you've got the golden child. Like, you got to pan out. That has to work out this year.
Oh, 100%. Again, Chris, 8-4 is success.
Yeah.
7-5. 7-5 is a mild step forward, but it doesn't meet the definition of success. 6-6 is a disappointment,
right,
and 5-7 is a failure.
Yeah.
And that's where you are. You have a very clear definition. And the other thing, Chris, is it's important, man, to enjoy the journey in life, right? Like, how many people do you know? They work 70 hours a week, they make $200K a year, and they're hell bent on retiring at 50. They're not enjoying the journey. Then they have a heart attack at 52. And you're like, oh, wait a minute, you didn't enjoy the journey, man.
Yeah.
You know, like, you need to enjoy the journey in life, man. And it's okay to have expectations. It's okay to crawl before you can walk. And I promise you, there's a faction of Clemson fans who you're getting their attention with what you're doing right now. You know, like, it's whoa. You're 16th, we're 8th. We're a little uncomfortable with how close you are to us in the standings, right? The proof that South Carolina can win a national championship is that Clemson's won a national championship. What you got to do, because there isn't an overload of high school talent in this state, is you have to learn to recruit regionally, okay? You have to learn to recruit regionally. You have to claim a certain area. And when you look at where these recruits are coming from, and where Shane Beamer is getting, commitments from, and most importantly, who those players are choosing the Gamecocks over. Choosing the Gamecocks over Florida, over Georgia, over Alabama, over Clemson. That's when you know, when you look at that list of other offers that a recruit has and you see where Beamer's pulling them from, that's where you can be impressed, man. I got to mention one thing to you. When is South Carolina going to stop sleeping with the enemy in terms of bringing back coaches that coached on the bad side? You know, when are you going to stop doing
we're
that?
going to the baseball
like, you
side
said
of
this. I saw you say this. Hey, Monty Lee, welcome. No, Monty Lee, get the hell out of here.
Monty Lee was
Clemson
a Gamecock
doesn't do
first.
that with you guys.
Monty Lee was a
Clemson
Gamecock
doesn't do that
first.
with you guys.
Monty
Stop
Lee
doing
was
that.
a Gamecock
You're better
first.
than that. Stop going back to the girl that cheated on you, man. You're better than that, man. It's not good for the rivalry, and you know I'm right. All right, you know I'm right.
Monty Lee was a Gamecock first, so actually
he was an
technically
assistant
Clemson,
coach
right?
20 years ago.
He was a Gamecock first. Am I right or am I wrong?
He was an assistant coach 20 years ago. I got to tell you this, Chris. I had Darian Rencher on my show, running back at Clemson. And I said, man, what do you make of all these, like, Clemson baseball players transferring to South Carolina? I said, like, what would that look like on the other end, Clemson taking on South Carolina football players? And he cut me off, Chris. He said, would never happen. I said, why would it never happen? Why would it never happen? He goes, because Dabo would never do that. Chris, it's not a healthy thing for the rivalry when, like, you welcome with open arms somebody who's been on the side of the enemy. And I want you to realize that, my brother. I want you to realize that and come see the light, because when you do, it's beautiful out there for you, Chris. It really is. Monty Lee should have no spot on the Gamecocks. That door works one way. It worked one way with Tavian Feaster. It's working one way now. It's working one way with the baseball players who transferred to South Carolina. When are you guys going to stop going back to the girl that cheated on you? Stop doing it.
To be fair, Brad Scott is on Clemson's staff. You do know that, correct? And he was the head coach at South Carolina, yes. Okay, so I just wanted to throw that out there, that it has happened before. Listen, I'm not a Mark Kingston guy. We all know this. The taking the players, it's weird. It's weird. There's no other way to put it. It's just weird. It's very weird. And we're not even talking about, like, stud all-stars. Like, a couple of them are, like, 200 hitters. Listen, the way Kingston's going about things, but the one, if I had to pick, like, I can live with Monty Lee. I don't even blame Monty Lee for taking the Clemson head coaching job. Like, he wanted to be a head coach. I think he would have been silly not to take it. I do. Like, back when he was at College Charleston, my vantage point with Monty Lee, I played with a lot of guys that were recruited by him when he was at South Carolina. They played for him at CFC. I like Monty Lee. I think it's a plus addition. I like him. I know it's weird. It is weird. It is weird, though.
It goes back, Chris, to our conversation about standards, right? It's okay to have standards. It's okay to have expectations. Right. This is part of that. You know, Clemson is not really taking South Carolina's leftovers. South Carolina is taking Clemson's leftovers. And I'm saying, You're good enough, you're smart enough, and doggone it, people like you. And you guys don't need to be doing that
Yeah.
anymore. You don't need to be taking Clemson's
yeah.
baseball players. You
To
don't need
your
to be
point,
taking Clemson's ex-baseball coach. You don't need to be doing any of that stuff, okay? It's not good for the rivalry. Clemson's not doing it with you guys on the other end. So, that's kind of how I feel about that, man.
Yeah. Well, Mark, and
Keep
to
the
your
standards
point,
high, man.
yeah,
Keep the standards high. Your ceiling. What did Jordan say, Chris? The ceiling is the roof, right?
Something like that. Yeah. No, to your point, Mark, the reason I love you, my guy, is because you're willing to say that, because from the fan side of things, it's just blindly support whoever's wearing the garnet and black. Don't say anything negative about it. And I'm not saying anything negative about Dylan Brewer or Jonathan French or Ricky Williams. Hey, I hope they come here and ball out and, they beat Clemson. But I would agree with you. I like the Lee edition. As far as the players, I would agree with you. I don't like making a habit of that, and it's weird. I mean, I remember when it happened, I posted a video of I felt like I was surprised the reaction wasn't more negative. Like truly, I was like, does it just kind of goes to show where the baseball rivalry is? What is wrong? Because I was just thinking about Ray Tanner and back when Monty Lee was an assistant. I was like, this would have never happened. This is the weirdest. So I'm not disagreeing with you in the sense, I don't love it. I really don't. And especially when the guys are average players. There are other guys you can go get. So I'm on your side, I think. I mean, I'm not going to trash the guys on the current roster, but I'm certainly not sitting here saying go scout Clemson's roster for players. I'm not a huge fan of it. That's why I like you, though, because you're willing to say that, where most are not. Most are not, because why are you coming after the kids? It's not coming after the kids. Just as a whole, in the grand scheme of things, it's a weird vibe. It's just a weird.
No, it is. And Chris, if you go back to Tavian Feaster, I guarantee you, if he could go back and do that again, and I said this at the time, he'd never go to South Carolina, because then what happens is, Chris,
by either side. He's not
right.
By
Neither side claims him.
Right.
Neither side claims him.
That's tough.
When you do that, right? If you have a chance to finish your career on one side of the rivalry, you do that. And you know what? Chris, I believe you're a Braves fan. Freddie Freeman ruined it for himself, right? Because he had a chance to finish his career with the Braves, chose to go somewhere else. We historically remember the one-team guys the fondest, and we strike from our memory those who play on both sides of a rivalry. I don't remember Johnny Damon being a Yankee, because I remembered him, destroying the Yankees on the Red Sox. I don't remember him being a Yankee, right? So it works the same way. You can't go on both sides of the rivalry, man. Stop hiring Monty Lee. Stop taking Clemson's players. You guys are better than that. You're South freaking Carolina, man. You're better than that.
Especially on the diamond.
So start believing that.
Especially on the diamond. I mean, and that's the thing, though. That program, South Carolina baseball, has those high standards and expectations. Listen, man, I hear you. I talked to – now, most of the guys, the former players, they love Monty Lee, so they loved him coming back. But as far as the players are concerned, yeah, listen, man, I'm not a Mark Kingston guy. You know this. So you mentioned, by the way, going back to the football side, you mentioned the Mark Stoops Beamer thing. What are your thoughts on that with Stoops? And then Stoops walking it back, saying, I didn't say anything. And, of course, we got video of Shane Beamer at Steel Hands at the event they had over the weekend, saying that, our climate is hot, but our culture is a hell of a lot hotter. What do you think about this back and forth with Stoops and Beamer?
Oh, man, I would love to be at a lunch table with those two, wouldn't you? Wouldn't that be great, man? Let's you and me, Chris, go have a brew with those two guys, right? Let's hash this out. Okay, first of all, let's establish Stoops was 100% talking about Beamer. Okay, Stoops is mad at everybody right now. Like Stoops. Somebody pissed in Stoops's Frosted Flakes, man. I don't know who it was, but it really is entertaining. You know what this tells me is that he realizes the Gamecocks are a threat. You don't speak up, Chris, about somebody who isn't a threat. A lion doesn't concern himself with the opinion of sheep. So he is now recognizing Beamer as a threat. And so he's speaking out against him. He wants South Carolina to remain that cute little story that we talked about at the beginning of this. And now that they're rising above that, who knows, man? Maybe Beamer beat him out for somebody behind the scenes. Maybe he's got a better sales pitch. And he's realizing, well, we have worked so hard to get to the point where we are, Kentucky, I'm speaking for him right now, we are the number 2 seed in the SEC East. We worked so hard to get this. And now we've got this young upstart in Columbia who's stealing our recruits, who's like got the flash and the social media profile. And look, man, like the thing with Beamer is I think he's got the substance and the style. It's one thing when a guy has the style and not the substance. You look at Jeff Collins at Georgia Tech. There was a lot of energy for what he might do there. Now it's year 3. It's flat as hell, man. Yeah. Right? But Beamer came in with the style, and then he showed you the substance of what he could do with team building, right? What he could do with team building. And look, man, I understand that both sides of the rivalry want and should want to be as separated from the other side as possible. But Beamer is a damn likable guy. Dabo is a likable guy. And I think South Carolina just may have stumbled upon their Dabo. I know that's blasphemous. Get me off the street.
Hey, when he was hired, I felt like every single conversation, every interview I had, even former players were like, he's a lot like Dabo. And I'm like, can we not change? Like, is this not like, it sounds like nails on a chalkboard coming out of you. Everybody was saying that. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know. If you can't beat them, copy them, I guess. I don't know.
Well, yeah, or diss them, right? Or diss them, or, try to put them back in their place. But look, man, South Carolina's ascension is not going to be stopped by Mark Stoops. It's not going to be stopped by Clemson fans who are a little nervous about the recruiting, right? It's not going to be stopped by any of that. Chris, I want to take a moment, man, to congratulate you on what you've built. It's incredible. It's honestly incredible what you have built. As being, the hub where Gamecock fans can come to not get any spin and get the truth and get real stuff. Bill O'Reilly, back in the day, became a multi-millionaire by having the no spin zone on Fox News. You are the no spin zone for South Carolina sports. I am the no spin zone in the upstate, and I always say this to you, Chris, never change what you're doing. Okay? Never feel like, man, I can't come out with this negative opinion because people are going to get upset. If it's what you believe, brother, come out with it, man, because your audience will respect you for it. But what you have built is one of the more impressive things I've ever seen in sports media. I am proud of you, brother. I'm really proud of what you built. You've had to move amidst all of this. You've been crapped on by all this. Now you've had media that once tried to ignore you is now coming on your show regularly. You know what I mean? So I'm just incredibly proud of what you have built, man, and how you just freaking get after it. And as somebody myself who just gets after it, I respect the hustle, brother. I really, really do. So I want to wish you congratulations.
Mark, I appreciate that, man. Thank you. That means a lot, honestly, coming from you. And congratulations to you as well on everything that you've been doing with the Fan Upstate and obviously just your career. It's been fantastic to see the ascension. And I'm glad you came on today, and I'd love to have you on again, throughout the season, because I feel like, and I see a lot of the comments, people seeing a side of you that maybe, you only get a small glimpse on Twitter. And that's what happens a lot. People only get one little piece, and then they attach themselves to that one piece they hated, and they ignore the 99% of your other content they probably love. They don't listen to the radio show.
That was the one beef, Chris. You remember, that was the one beef I had with you. It was like I felt like for a while you were retweeting when I had something critical to say, but you weren't retweeting when I said something positive.
Fair enough.
And you'd see it. It would be the positive Gamecock comment would get like 16 likes, and the negative Gamecock comment would get 4,000. 4,000 retweets or something like that. And I had a talk with you about that. And I said, Chris, if I've got something critical to say about the Gamecocks, I don't mind if you retweet it, but please try to be equitable about it. You know what I'm saying? And in the years since we had that conversation, you have been. So I want to invite your Gamecock fans to check out our show, Offsides. You guys can, if you live in the upstate, 97.7 FM in Greenville, 97.1 FM in Spartanburg. If you don't live in the upstate, all you have to do is download the Odyssey app, which is AUDACY. Go to the Fan Upstate. Our show is on 3 to 7 every day. And I invite you guys to follow me on Twitter, at Marc Ryan on Air. That's at MARC, Ryan on Air. I'd love to have you. And I think if you follow the account, you'll see that there's, when I feel there's something positive to say, I'll say it. When I feel there's something critical to say, I'll say that as well. And like you, Chris, I'm never going to apologize for that.
Yeah. Mark, last thing before I get you out of here, because you are a Florida guy, Billy Napier, outlook of the Gators. I think Florida may be the biggest mystery in the SEC because from what I've heard, starting 22 is there. Starting 22 can go toe-to-toe with anybody. It's the depth that's an issue. We're seeing Napier crush it on the recruiting trail as well, like you mentioned. I think that South Carolina Florida game is a really intriguing ballgame. A lot of Gamecock fans are just writing that one off as a W. And, you know, I get coming.
I'm sorry, what?
I get
They're
coming into it.
writing that off as a W.
Just
We're getting the
W.
Vanderbilt treatment. We're getting the Vanderbilt treatment right now. Are you serious?
I just feel like a lot of folks are not looking at that Florida game with the hesitation of normal years because of what happened last year. But, Mark, to that point, listen, I think it's a toss-up game. I think it's got the potential to be one of the best games of the year in the Swamp, a place that, listen, it's still an intimidating environment. South Carolina hasn't exactly played stellar football in that venue, you know what I mean? So your thoughts on the Gators' outlook of this season, year one under Napier, and that game as well, South Carolina, Florida?
You know what, man? There's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy surrounding him. And the problem is, Chris, the first two games of the year, Florida isn't ready for either of those two opponents. They're not. You know, like Utah, Cameron Rising is a legitimate Heisman Trophy contender. That operation has been rolling for, 15, 16 years now, right? Florida, year one, is not ready for that. The polls tell you Utah's 7th, Florida's 37th. You know, I don't get how the line is 2.5. I'll never bet against my team. But if I was a betting man, that's the biggest no-brainer bet I've ever seen in my life. Then you got Kentucky. Does Kentucky have the raw talent Florida does? No. Okay, they don't. But they have that well-oiled machine, that physicality, that knowledge of the system. I think there's every chance Florida opens 0-2, but I like the Gators against South Carolina because towards the end of the year, they're going to start to get more and more comfortable with that system, right? If Anthony Richardson stays healthy, and that is a big if, 8-4 is not out of the question for the Gators. If Anthony Richardson goes down, 4-8 is not out of the question for the Gators. But, just like I tell Gamecock fans to enjoy the journey with Shane Beamer, you got to crawl before you can walk. Keep in mind the Gators now have had three failed coaches back to back to back. The Gators have had 3 failed coaches back to back to back. This thing is going to take some time. You're going to have patience, practice patience, preach it, right? And so that's where I think Florida is heading into this year. It's exciting. It's exciting as a fan to have a fresh start. It's exciting as a fan to feel like you might have finally the right coach at the right time for the Gators.
Yeah. Mark, this has been a pleasure, man. I know you got to get going. You got a very busy day with your show and everything else, but we got to do this again, man. We got to get you back on over the course of the football season. This is incredible. Like I said, I really appreciate you taking the time, and I'm so happy again that people were able to hear your commentary, hear your banter, because I feel like there may have been some folks that came into, I posted the graphic yesterday, and of course, I did that for a reason because I was like, I can't wait to see the reaction on social media. But I think people got to see and hear, hey, Marc Ryan's he's not the big bad wolf. He's just a normal guy who talks sports. Hey, he's high on Shane Beamer. Let's cut the guy a little bit of slack here. But I don't know. You might get some flack for that Florida take. Either way, Mark, I appreciate you for always keeping it real. Thank you so much again for the kind words about what we've built here. And it really means a lot coming from you, someone like yourself. And obviously wish you guys nothing but success. And anytime you guys need a guest, man, to hit me up. So I appreciate it. Let's definitely do it again.
Hey, Chris, continued success to you. Thank you so much for I'm seeing on the comments here all the kind words from your audience, man. We appreciate you guys so much as well. Chris, continued success, man. You are a true American success story, brother, and keep at it, all right?
I appreciate it, Mark. Hey, we'll do it again soon, man. Appreciate you.
Can't wait. Looking forward to the next time, brother. Take care.
Man, take care.